My son, Michael, asked me for some of the recipes that my mother made as he was growing up. In particular, he wanted her recipe for stuffed breads. And she generally made either broccoli or spinach bread, usually with sausage and cheese added to it too. So I'm going to make that today and record it, and that way Michael will have the recipe on video that he can refer to. I'm also going to make other videos in the future of recipes that were my mother and my grandmother's and put it on here for my children and grandchildren to refer to. They'll have their own area on my YouTube channel. So what you'll need for this is some sausage. I use a mix of hot and sweet. Usually I go to the Italian deli and get loose sausage. I did not have time to drive there today. I just got sausage from the grocery store, which I will remove from the casings and fry up. Some grated Parmesan cheese, mozzarella, some frozen chopped spinach. My mother always used the frozen bread dough, and she always got a pack of 5 in the frozen section at the grocery store. She did not make her own bread for this. I'm showing it her way. Feel free to make your own bread if you want to be ambitious and use your own dough. I have hot pepper flakes for just a little bit of heat. Cracked black pepper. I have salt in here that is Celtic sea salt. I like it for the extra minerals, and we have onion and garlic. Now with the spinach or the broccoli, whatever you use, and especially when you're making the spinach bread, if you use fresh spinach, it will make a mess. There's a very high water content in fresh vegetables, and it will come out and make the bread real soggy. I've tried, believe me, because I prefer fresh vegetables in most dishes. You can see these 2 colanders over here, and I'm going to be putting the chopped spinach in there and letting it thaw. And as it thaws, I'll be pressing the water out of it. And you want to press as much as you can out of there. Make it as dry as possible before you put together the filling for the bread. This is pretty easy, especially when you're using the frozen dough. Sometimes when my grandmother made this, she used to get either pizza dough from the pizza parlor and use that to make it, or she'd go to the Italian bakery and she'd ask them for some of their dough from their Italian bread. I don't do that. I just do it like my mother did. Anyway, on to the next steps. Okay, I've got my spinach and the colanders, and now I'm going to brown up my sausage. Since this isn't loose sausage, I'm going to take it out of the casing. I know it looks kind of gross. You could just squeeze it and take that right out of there. Technically, you could fry it as is and slice it, but I don't like the texture of those casings in my bread. So I like to remove it. You don't need to watch me do all these, so I'll come back when I have come to the next step. Okay, here is the sausage that I fried up. And what I'm going to do is just break this up with my hand so it's really finely crumbled. I've tried different ways to do this, and this is the best and the easiest as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this all into a fine crumble, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, the spinach has been in the colanders for quite a while, and I'm just going to press it with my hand, and again, using the hand's the best way that I have found, and just keep pressing the water out. And you want to do this for quite a while. You want it to be where you really can't see any water coming out of the bottom of that colander. And you don't need to see me do both of these colanders to that point, so I'll stop until we get to the next step. Okay, I have my sausage crumbled. I have squeezed all the water out of the spinach. I have caramelized the onion and the garlic. I have rolled out some dough on the counter just out of your view. And we're going to get ready to mix up our filling and make our first loaf of bread. I'm just going to add a little cracked black pepper into the sausage meat. A couple of shakes of red pepper flakes, not a lot. Not everybody in the house likes spicy food, so I don't want to go too crazy. Here's my Celtic sea salt. Add a little bit more than you think, because I have the water squeezed out of about 4 pounds of spinach. And so I would say at least a teaspoon of salt, if not more. I'm going to add in the spinach. And here's my caramelized onions and garlic. About a half cup of parmesan I'm throwing in here. My mother never measured anything exactly when she made this. I'm going to put in about a pound of the moods to start. See how I do with that. I'm going to mix this up and turn the camera back on when I get to the next step. Okay. What I'm going to do now is just take some of the filling and put it in a line almost to each end. You don't want to go too crazy because you won't be able to fold it up. And what I do, I fold these ends in first. Give this a flip. The other side. Kind of pinch the seam together. And if you wet the dough, it'll help you get it to stick together. Now you want to take it and put it seam side down, you can see, on a baking sheet that you greased. Put it in a 350 oven, and you're going to have to eyeball it. Depends on what kind of dough you used. The heat of your oven could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 35-40 minutes before this is done. The filling's all cooked. You're just basically cooking the bread, the dough, and getting the cheese to melt. I'm going ahead and putting that in the oven. And we'll film our last segment when that's done. Okay, the bread's out of the oven. I brushed it with a little bit of melted butter, and it'll be delicious. Enjoy.